Hi everyone, welcome to the Film Dirt Lounge. Well, here it is. This is my review of V, the 2009 series. This is a little bit of an odd show for me. I tried to get into it and I did look forward to maybe a more modern take over the original miniseries, because it did come out a little while ago. It was early 80s, 1983. So now technology has advanced so much that we now have instant communication with phones, cloud usage, and all the modern methods of communication now available to us. But a lot of this series just seems to fall flat for me, in as much as how great the original miniseries was. This is equally as dour, which is really disappointing if you're a fan of sci-fi. Now I thought with this review I'm just going to review the whole series. It says there was 2 of them. The first season is 12 episodes and the second one is 10. So we've got Anna, very well played by Morena Baccarin. She's fantastic in many shows I've seen her in. She is also good in this. And I think generally the acting throughout the main cast is very good. I don't think the problem lies there. I think the problem does definitely lie in the convoluted and long-running story. I didn't think much happened, well, not enough of the time anyway. It just seemed to be very little progress happening with the story. I wanted the hook to happen much sooner. I usually give a show at least half an hour, I think, and I think within that time I think you should get the hook, which I deem as the moment that you can see whether a show is good or bad. And I think that's more than enough time. I don't partake in this theory where something is a slow burn or you have to wait for series 2 to understand the story. I don't believe in that at all. I do like a slow burn in essence where you don't want too much given to you too early on. I don't mind sitting through an interesting story and drip-fed vital pieces of the story to you. But while you're waiting, it should be interesting. And within half an hour and then an hour, episode 2, episode 3, it was starting to rapidly decline. I can just point that to not a very well-developed story. Now, let's discuss the similarities between this new story and the original. They have cherry-picked little bits and pieces from the original V. There are, of course, those elements of social engineering and social manipulation. Some people getting a little bit suspicious of them as well. And then, of course, the 5th column, and generally people turning against each other. And of course, they've tried to inject something new into it, which I was hoping they would do. I like that an FBI agent is part of the story, played by Elizabeth Mitchell very well. I don't think there was enough of that in the original miniseries, where there just seems to be civilians on their own against the aliens. There wasn't enough government agency input. I think that's probably why we connected more to the old series than this one, because the old series was on street level. And by that I mean the everyman and the everywoman and their grandparents. And it was just people, wasn't it? There was no senior bodies there. It was just people gathering together for the greater good. So here we've got the FBI, but it doesn't seem like she's making a lot of progress. She's obviously sceptical with the visitors, or V's as they're called here, but I find their mission was a little bit more vague than how it was originally. I do kind of like that they're in Earth clothing. It's kind of amusing seeing some of them in very well cut suits, and the women are in power business wear. It almost looks like a catalogue shoot, doesn't it? And the danger of that was that they would look maybe a little bit stiff and stuffy. And then there's this other aspect called bliss. What is going on there with the emotions? And just weird. I just couldn't get my head around it. If there was a genuine point to bliss and the lack of emotion, then it could have been quite an interesting watch with that aspect of things. Also, the visual effects weren't great. I know It was a bit patchy in the original show as well. That can be put down to the time though. But here it's, I know it's 2009, and CGI I think had got to a stage where it was getting there. But this still looked like it was lacking. Well, I can remember Anna extending her mouth and it just looked out of place. It wasn't quite there, wasn't photoreal enough. And you know what? Taking a step back and looking at this show as an example for model effects over CGI, we didn't really need such an exaggerated effect, which evidently just pulls you out of the story. And other effects as well. A lot of this is superimposed against possibly green or blue screen backgrounds, and it just doesn't merge well enough. It still looked like people were walking on air to me. There's the usual soap opera type storylines. Anna is against her daughter Lisa, who she suspects as being a fifth column. The sly pantomime looks off camera when you're doing something evil is really hammed up for the viewer's benefit. And also, you can see why they resorted to bringing old favourites back to this series, namely Jane Badler and Marc Singer. Jane Badler is called Diana again. Oh God, I had to step back and, I don't know, it just amused me. But it was still good to see her, and obviously there's going to be a power struggle between her and Anna. And Marc Singer plays Lars. He's the leader of the resistance. Of course he is. Okay, let's just give this a score. I'll give it 2 stars. There's just a lot of episodes going by and not enough progress with the story. So while viewing figures were decreasing, it was cancelled on a cliffhanger, where it looked like Earth was going to fight back with the help of Lars. Ending on a cliffhanger is usually a tactic to get a new series greenlit by the studio. And this doesn't always work, as we've seen previously. So even though the viewing figures were low, you can put that down to maybe trying to capitalise on such a successful original story. That was lightning in a bottle of its time, and it wasn't captured again for this series, definitely not. So let me just close out by re-acknowledging that the cast were good. There's a lot of solid acting here. It did look like they were doing as much as they could with the material. With Marc Singer and Jane Badler returning, maybe if there was a series 3, it could start getting good. Maybe they did can it too early. So I'll leave that there with this review. Hope you enjoyed this little reminisce. And if you're pining for a fix of Alien Invaders, I'd probably recommend the original 1983 show. And it was really good to revisit those after so long when I reviewed them for this channel. Even though it clearly looks 80s and it's a little bit dated, it's still fantastic TV. Thanks very much for joining me. Let me know, as always, if you agree or disagree with my thoughts, and I'll speak to you again next time. All the best and take care.